Hey, it's the Ultimate Handyman. Today I'm going to show you how to regrout this tile floor. Now the reason I'm regrouting this floor is my customer had a ton of loose grout on pretty much most of this floor, so we opted to scrape it all out and redo it. And the reason the grout was coming out is because the installer did not do a proper tile installation, and I have a ton of loose tiles. The subfloor is actually flexing up and down slightly. So I don't know what they did for an underlayment, but it definitely didn't do the job. So I've got some ideas on how to mitigate this issue, and I'll show you that in the video coming up. So I want to show you the tools I use to remove the grout. Now this tool here is a scoring tool. It has two tungsten carbide teeth at the end of it. I used it to scrape out the really loose grout. It worked really good for that. It had two teeth on the end of it, but I ended up breaking one off. So these tools are pretty much disposable because they're going to wear out after doing this job. This next tool is a grout removal tool. It's got a triangular cutting head. I'll show you in a second how that works. And then this last tool is a grout saw. So it has two little saw blades. You can actually take one out or add another one depending on the size of the grout, and you basically saw it out. So we're going to show you how I use the grout removal tool. You just stick it in the grout joint and carefully go back and forth. You don't want to chip the edges of the tile. And when you come to an intersection where the other grout line meets, you got to be really careful. I recommend using the little saw maybe, or the scraper very carefully so you don't slip and chip the edge of the tile. So this is how I use the scraper. After I use the grout removal tool, I can kind of scrape away the edge easily to get that grout joint down out of the way. And then you can also use this tool and just got to go back and forth, and it will saw the grout out of the joints. So I found that the grout saw worked really well on the harder to remove grout, but you can use any combination of these tools to get this job done. I basically use all three, just depending on the area. You can use the grout saw and then come back with the scraper along the edges to pop that little film off of the side of the tile. But just be really careful around those intersections where the grout meets. So after you get all the grout scraped, your bathroom is going to look like a tornado hit. It's going to be a big mess full of dust. And now it's time to clean everything up. So I'm going to be using the shop vac. We're going to vacuum out all of the grout joints, get all that dust out of the room, and make it look nice and clean. Now before I grout it, I used a wet microfiber cloth, just damp, and wipe the film off of the tiles so they're nice and clean right before we grout. I even wiped out the joints, make sure there's no dust in there, and on to the next step. So now I want to show you my solution for fixing some of these loose tiles. If your tiles are adhered good to the floor, you can skip this step. So to see these little voids around the edge of the tile, I'm going to be injecting this Loctite Superglue into those little cracks, and that's going to flow up under the tiles and help bond that edge back in place so it can't move up and down when you step on it. And I actually did this on a few tiles and then tested it out before and after, and you can actually hear the difference. It sounded like the tiles were basically glued back down properly. So hopefully this fix lasts. And you know, sometimes you got to think outside the box. I was trying to think what could flow into those tiny little voids, and Superglue did the trick. Now they do make a product that's made for filling in hollow spots under tiles. Say you install tiles and you didn't get enough mortar on the edge. You can actually drill out your grout line and inject this, and this product is supposed to fill in those voids. It'll basically be pressurized into all those voids. But I didn't really have a big enough space to even put the tip of the injector in there. So that's why I went with the Superglue. You know, sometimes you got to think outside the box when you're doing jobs like this. For the grout, I'm going to be using this Prism Ultimate Performance Cement Grout. Now the reason I went with this is it sets up within 4 hours, and you can actually walk on the floor and use it. Now when you install grout, whatever grout you pick, you need to follow the instructions really carefully when you do a grout job, because if you leave the grout on too long, you might have a big mess to clean up, and it won't be easy. So basically the first step is you mix the grout up for about 5 minutes, Then you let the grout rest for another 5 minutes, and you want to mix it to about that consistency. That's kind of where I like it. Now I'm going to spread the grout into all the joints. I'm only going to be spreading the grout about 4 to 5 feet in the bathroom. This is a bigger bathroom, and I don't want to go too far with this grout because I want to make sure I can wipe it off in time before it sets up. Now the instructions do say to let it set for 10 to 20 minutes in the joint so it can firm up a little bit before you hit it with a damp sponge. Now the reason I'm only going so far is because I actually had a disaster happen the first time I used this grout. Years ago, I used to work with my buddy who's a contractor, and we were actually turning a bedroom into a fancy bathroom, and this bathroom had copper penny floor tiles. They look like little copper pennies. And I was so used to using old cement grout that you can spread, on the entire bathroom floor, and you can let it sit for 30, 40 minutes and come back and wipe it off. Well, not this new grout that we bought, which is this prism grout. I didn't follow the instructions, and I spread this grout on the entire floor, and then I started to go back and try to wipe off this excess haze on the surface, and it wouldn't come off. So I ended up having to scrub the floor with a heavy nylon brush, and then we noticed that there was grout on each and every tile, penny tile, on the top surface of it, and it would show up when it dried out. So we had to scrape each and every one of those off with a razor blade. Not fun. So follow the instructions. So after the grout set up for about 10 to 20 minutes, I think I let it go to about 12 minutes, I wipe it down with a damp sponge. There's a little spot I missed, so I packed some more grout in there. And basically you're just shaping the grout lines. You don't want to go too crazy. You don't want to wipe any out. That's why you let it firm up a little bit. And we're just going to repeat this process. So I worked my way to the bathroom door. Then I did the next section, which is out where the sinks are and the vanity. So after about 3 hours, you can wipe off the grout haze. It says you can use a cheesecloth or a damp sponge. I'm using a damp microfiber towel. I actually like using these better than the sponge. Picks up all that haze, gets it off the floor, and man, look at how good those grout lines look. So here's the finished bathroom floor right after I wiped off the haze. Still a little bit damp in the lines, and after about a day they're going to start to lighten up and they'll get a nice uniform color. Now this job took me about 7.5 hours, not including going to the store. So book yourself a day to do this job. It was definitely a lot of work. There was more time spent scraping and getting that grout out than actually grouting. That was the easiest part. So if you can do me a huge favor, this video took a lot of effort. Can you please like, share, and subscribe? If you want to see more of my how-to videos, the best way to do that is to ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when I post my latest video. And you know what? I'm going to post some videos right here for you to watch, so go check them out right now.